We'll
Good.
go in.
Good.
Welcome to the Eric Tries Too Hard podcast, episode 129. After probably like a 3-week hiatus, I am here with another Hard Times contributor, comedian, all-around funny guy, Mr. Gregg Gethard. How's it going, Greg?
Oh, it's going good, Eric. I like your bedroom a lot, or your guest room. As
My
you
guest
said.
room. God.
Yeah. You don't have you didn't pull up the carpet?
No, I did not.
Yeah, we went hard. We go hardwood floors in our house.
We go hard. That's
we
by
go
the way.
hard.
That's
Hardwood
upstairs,
floors.
We go hard.
Yeah.
We go fucking hard. Well, my whatever she is, she just turned something like 16 months old.
Oh wow.
Daughter. She when she like walks and she'll do dances when we play music. And she does this thing now where she'll do what looks kind of like that hardcore dance where they're like picking up the floor, and she does that shit.
Picking up change. Yeah.
I need to record her doing that and set it to something real hard, real heavy.
Well, there is a Sick of It All had a video in the 90s. It actually got like a little bit of MTV airplay.
Got that 90s airplay, yeah.
Weird, like when like punk was like, and there's like when I was in high school. And it was like this like really weird kind of thing when like these weird like Civ was on like the radio, and it's like they had a video. Sick of It All had this video where they showed like popular hardcore dances, like Pick Up Change and the Windmill. I believe they were prominently featured in it. So you could probably set it to that and set your daughter.
They just insert it into the video.
Yeah. You get like kind of a blown up viral hit from me.
I'm going for it. I've been going. That's what I need to do. I've been trying to create these high concept ideas and these slow burn like quality programs. But you know what? No, I need to get my cats involved and my daughter involved, and that's what's going to break this shit for me.
That's gonna take you from one level. You're going to go from a house with. You're going to go from a house with a guest room to a house with a guest room with a half bath attached.
This is actually a full bath. And
no.
I want to clarify, if I ever make it in I have a real job. But if I ever make it in comedy, I'm going to have to take a real step down, even if I make it.
Yes.
That's the issue that we're dealing with here.
Yeah, if I make it, you're going to have to give up that the match, the 401k match. Yeah.
You know what's funny is I talk a big game, but like I do okay. It's really my wife. I don't even have like a 401k match. I've got nothing. I bring in enough to help, and then I tell jokes 15 minutes a week. I'm now realizing that I shouldn't be complaining about a goddamn thing. But turns out, what you gonna do? Yeah. Well, what about me? Let me ask you. Okay, so you have how many years in the even if it's part-time or whatever you want to call it, like how many years in the business do you have, or the business do you have?
Yes, I have been performing comedy in some degree for 10 years. This is my 10th year. God bless you.
Thank you. I muted it for a reason. It's like, go on.
Yeah. I've been performing comedy for 10 years, right? I've been married. I'll be married 10 years as of October. And I did my first show was like a couple months before our wedding. And then the second or third show I ever did, I did the night after our wedding.
Yeah. Was she really funny?
Oh, my wife was like fine with it. We came back to our house. Wait, hold on one second. My wife wants my dog to go upstairs with her.
Okay.
Come on, go upstairs. Go upstairs. And it was funny. So I live in Philly, and our wedding was in New Jersey. It was like an hour away from our house, and I had a show booked that next Sunday after our wedding, and I thought it was going to be like such a big deal. I thought it was going to be like the biggest deal, and I rushed down to this show, and there's like 6 people in the crowd for it, and it was just like I didn't know how it worked quite yet. I didn't know how it all worked quite yet. But
God, things I believed with music. It was always like, well, 10 people came to this show, so they're all going to tell 5 friends. And then 50 people are going to come to the next show. That's how it works.
Yeah. And yeah, it was funny. So when I started 10 years ago in Philly, there was like no comedy here. It was like a dead zone of comedy. We had a comedy club. I think we had it. I don't even know, that would have like the big names come in, you know, like big club names, you know, and that's who still like go to that club, you know, like Todd Barry level guys. And
yeah. I actually just saw him.
He's great. He's amazing.
Seller. Yeah.
But we didn't have any alternative. I don't even know what stand-up open mics yet, or anything like that. And we had one guy put on shows, and his name was Don. This guy, Don Montre, who
a classy guy who doesn't scam people.
Actually, no, he's such a good dude, such a good dude.
Yeah.
And he just put on shows. I think he did like more, like he was doing improv. And I know I met him because there was an improv message board. And even though I hate improv, cool. That was like the one place you can like-minded people. So he reached out to like improv people to kind of branch out and do other things. And then like I reached out to him. And then there were like a couple other, like random weirdos who just kind of all popped into this show. It was called Die Act or Die. And that's like where we like all met. Like this whole big crew of us met there. And then I was like, at the same time, like I got involved in a sketch group that just started. I just like joined. Yeah. And then someone started the Philly Improv Theater, FIT as we call it, started. And then I did a show through them. And then like I moved my show to another theater because I hate FIT, because like, you know, like how it is like with punk, when you just hate the guy who runs a venue, you're just like, nah, like this guy's terrible. So
we actually just today we had a promoter hit up my band. We're inactive for the time being, but hit up our band and was like, gave us like a copy paste message of like all the, we just want to help bands. We want to cut through the bullshit and give you all. And we're like, we know every band who's worked with you talks about you stealing money. And also, just 2 years ago, the founder of your organization told my band we needed to kiss his rings if we wanted to get anywhere in this town. And it's like, go fuck yourself. We hate you. We'll never work with you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But there's like a whole group of people who just all wanted to start comedy in Philadelphia that all kind of just like came together in this like sketch groups and stand-ups and improv people, and we all kind of like intermingled and did each other's shows and everything. And that was 10 years ago, and it was super, super fun and weird, and really, I mean, it was like super exciting, right? Just to have like this just kind of like whole new world of people in my life that I never, you know, like we just had this whole new world. And then, you know, I made all these awesome friends from it. You know, I started my own show. I ran it for like 6 or 7 years. It was like a variety show that I did. And, you know, we all just kind of discovered, you know, like we all kind of just along the way developed and figured out our niches and what we were good at and what we were bad at and what we wanted to do and what we didn't want to do. But then, you know, as a musician, you know, as you know, it's like, all right, well, as the scene progresses, then you start like, you know, you're just like, I don't like that guy as much as I thought I did. Or like that group of people over there, I'm not too cool with how they're acting right now, you know, and then it's like, well, I have more in common with these people, you know, so then it just kind of, you know, it kind of got pretty cliquey, and no one wanted to really talk about it, but, you know, we had scene politics, to use a phrase from Maximum Rock and Roll, and you know, and it just kind of you know, it just kind of really, really, really got you know, it gets too aggravating for me sometimes. So if you know, like when I was booking a show, you know, like there's so much goes into putting on a show, you know, Especially, and like I never, like I was never in a band or anything like that, and like I have no musical ability, but it's the same thing if you're, like a punk kid trying to put on a show in your college house. It's like, all right, well, I have to find the venue, I have to deal with the people who run the venue, I have to do the publicity, I have to, I reached at my show every month was like a fundraiser for a different local charity, so I had to like hook that all up, and get all that together, and then I had to get the performers.
Literally everyone is being difficult and no one is being grateful. At the same time.
And yes, and then the very last thing I did, even though I hosted the show, was work on my own material. Like,
oh god, that's you forget you have to do that shit too.
That was like the very last step every month, and so it's just kind of like, like that just got to be too much. And then another thing, what you find out is like when you stop having a show to book, a lot of stage time to give people, a lot of the phone calls to socially hang out with people go away very quickly. And it's like, oh, okay, like now I know I can see who's kept in touch, and I can see who just wanted me because they wanted to do a couple sketches. And that's fine, like that's totally fine. But you learn, like you very much learn along the way, right? Is that like being the biggest fish in the tiniest pond really matters to a lot of people. And
you are hitting the nail on the head. Yeah, keep going. You're absolutely right.
And it's like, and that's, there's a difference, right? There's a lot of people I'm really, really good friends with from here who've like gone on to bigger and better things, who, were here because they did the work, right?
Yeah.
Like a guy in my first sketch group, my friend Jason, is now a video producer or something like that for John Oliver.
Oh, right? Nice.
And then, and then another good friend of mine is a stand-up from here, Doogie Horner, who he's up in New York now and killing it up there.
Cool.
And he was on like America's Got Talent, and like I have a bunch of other friends like who've done like all these other like really, really good things. They're here, but then other people are just here to be the big fish in the tiny pond.
Here,
and that's what I
keep finding. Oh my god, that's what I knew with bands. It was always kind of weird because it was like there were bands always try to tour usually before they're ready.
Yeah.
But I'm finding it, but they still are trying to be like the local scene means more to them. Like the scene itself means far more than the music. But even with comedy, there are a lot of people who I've noticed. I've only been doing this about 6 months as far as stand-up. I've been podcasting and writing a lot longer, but stand-up for 6 months. And there are people who, when I started doing stand-up, I'd see them at the mics, smaller showcases, and go like, wow, that person's really funny. Fast forward 6 months, I go, I originally like, well, they're so funny. Why are they right here? Why am I on the same show as this person? 6 months later, I go, oh, same 5 minutes for 6 straight months. And I've seen literally nothing change. And I've seen you literally do nothing to promote yourself or try to blah, blah, blah. You were so happy. And that's okay. But it's like that's why you're here. You're so happy to be in the scene. And I think it extends to work too. This is something I've been like thinking about. I just today started thinking about if it was possible to turn this into a bit. People in offices have all this office politics. And I've thought, like, my theory on it after years of dealing with horrible, like, just always they're manipulating, or they're trying to, like, play some weird game. Or like, and I was like, why do these people want to just, like, do this so much? And I think it's because those are the same people who this is their entire life. This is their social standing. This is their, their job. This is the people they're around almost all the time.
The person in the office who like the where the Post-it notes are located, it's like the most important thing in the world. That's actually like a huge.
That's the power they have.
One of my favorite like comedy things I like to do. Like, so my kind of niche is I do like a lot of character comedy. Like I've done stand-up or storytelling shows as me, as Gregg Gethard telling a story that happened to me, or stand-up observations, and I hate it. Like I am like just like it's just
You even did like a sarcastic shake of the camera when you said that. That was amazing. Observations.
Yeah. No.
You did air quotes with your camera. That's insane.
Yeah. No, like I don't like it, right? Like I just don't like it. So I do a lot of characters, and they're kind of like these weird like weird intersections of like my life and business, you know, because I'm getting my MBA now, and professionally I'm a business journalist. And cool. So I very much like that kind of world, right? Because like the most important thing to everyone, no matter whether they want to admit it or not, and it should be, is your livelihood. It's how you pay your bills. And that it's like that kind of culture with it really, really, really generates like a lot of my interest, and a lot of my brain power goes to that. And I very much love like the person at work or I used to have to cover like I was a newspaper reporter. I used to have to go to like school board meetings and like local town council meetings, and like the person who has the tiniest shred of authority, who uses it to the ultimate lengths of their power, is like so funny to me. Just like like just that amount of like just that person, and like what their brain and what their internal dialogue must be like is so dark and depressing.
Yep.
And it's hilarious. Like
that is
like
like,
oh, you know what? I'm not gonna make your copies right away. I'm gonna put this on the side until you know, like that person, you know, you look in the parking lot. Yeah. I'm not processing your folder order. Like it's so entertaining to me. Just it's like I love that person so much, like more than like any other archetype.
I remember I started interning at an office when the first season of The Office came out. Like I was still in college, but it was like I think the first season aired like at some weird mid-season time. I remember watching it in the summer, and there was that great line Dwight Schrute character is put in charge of the sick board or the vacation board, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the whole point was like, there's a great line where the other dude goes, I've never seen go to someone's head so quickly.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly right.
The one where I think he was like making people disclose their illnesses.
Yes. Yeah. Or maybe it was
one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
That was like,
God damn.
Because I remember when that show like came out, and I watched, you know, like I was really into the British Office when it came out.
Yeah, me too. I was the hipster who went American. I was like, I'm not going to watch this. There's no way it's going to be as good.
And because the pilot episode of the U.S. Office is word for word the English Office pilot, and it's just like one of those things. Like, wow, like really, bizarre. Like what are you kind of thinking? That's such a bizarre creative choice right there. But then after the first season ended, you know, like all these people hated it and everything. I was like, after the first couple, like the second episode, or like by the end of the first season, only 6 episodes, my wife and I were like, this is the best thing on TV. Like this is so good.
Episodes 2 through 6 were amazing.
Yeah. And then I remember there was also this summer 40-Year-Old Virgin came out. I remember like
he blew up in the middle of it.
Yeah. And it's just like that weekend, like when that movie was like coming out for the build-up, no one ever had more at stake in their professional career than Steve Carell like that week. If that movie tanked, and that movie bombed, The Office was not going to get renewed, and he was going to be like a supporting guy the rest of his career. And you know, and then that movie was such a huge hit, like critical and success. You know.
Yeah, because that's the first one. Now that I think about it, because I loved him on Daily Show, and so when he did, I think it was Almighty as a small character. I remember watching that movie, just like excited for Steve Carell to do something, and like, but I remember that's so crazy you point that out, because now that I'm thinking about it, Knocked Up, pre-Superbad, that was, but it was after Anchorman. So Will Ferrell had been riding the wave of the whole Will Ferrell / Vince Vaughn like resurgence of the R-rated comedy, but Judd Apatow had not. Yeah, exactly. And Dodgeball, and I don't know Will Ferrell's in that, but either way. But then like Anchorman comes out, and it's still like wacky as shit, but that's where Judd Apatow really started stepping in, and then 40-Year-Old Virgin was not only the first thing for Steve Carell, but it was the follow-up for Judd Apatow, and I think it was the first Apatow movie. I could be wrong, but it felt like the first Apatow movie where they kind of introduced the let's write how real people talk, or let's write how this group of people would talk, and they hadn't done that before, and that was crazy.
What I like, there's a lot of criticisms against those guys now, like because they're kind of like like bro,
they're huge. You can't really do much. That famous.
My kind of take is like this. It's like Judd Apatow's first big thing was Freaks and Geeks, with Paul Feig, and no one watched that show. Like when it was on, like that was like the lowest rated thing, and that came out like right when I got out of college, and I was like saw the first episode and was like, I have never seen a show that like I relate to more than this. Like all aspects of my life, like the dorky stuff, and then like when I the punk stuff, and like everything in here is encapsulated in one hilarious show. It is the best thing, and like that took such a word of mouth and like snowball to pick up steam, and like to get the box set to come out, and like the DVDs and everything. It took a while, and and now it's like I feel like really I feel like really, really, really connected to that world, even though I have nothing to do with those people, obviously. But it's just like I was, I was rooting for them the whole time, and it's like I feel like this weird vindication that they're like the ruling class of Hollywood comedy.
That's exactly what like the point was at the beginning. Like they were all the freaks and the geeks, and he put the people he knew were great but weren't necessarily being treated as such by the industry, even though they're all pretty young. And he like single-handedly, it's like, all right, you're famous this year, now you're famous next year, you're famous the next year. He made like 7 people famous. That's insane.
Yeah, he did. And they're all like people who do not look the part. Like
they do not and put forth the actual like the chops and the work to get there, which was so cool. That's why like I always been on with the exception of just a handful of bands, I'm never like, as much as I've been into punk and underground music, I never have the cool, I was into them way before anybody else was thing. Like even if I get into an underground band, it's like once they broke on the underground, I'm never on the ground floor of shit, right? But with comedy, I always feel like I'm on that ground floor. There's so many people who've gotten famous who the first thing they ever did. Dude, I was watching MySpace videos of Aziz Ansari in a black box theater in New York, like giant kind of thing, or maybe not way before, but like that kind of shit always happens. And I feel like how when like people love punk bands from the basements and then see them get really big and then cry sell out and hate them and blah, blah, blah. I feel like people unjustly do that to punk bands, but also to comedians. The whole like you don't hate them, you hate their fan base, or you hate that you don't feel special anymore because you know who they are, or that people know who they are.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like I'm connected to that. I'm literally related to that world through my brother.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so funny. Like you don't have to. I wasn't going to ask because I want this to be about you.
No,
but
everyone knows who my brother's. Everyone knows my brother's Chris Gethard. Like it's not a secret. He talks about me. I talk about him. I literally
just saw a movie he was in the other day, and were asking me. I was like, "Have you heard of these people?" And I was like, "Holy shit!" That's the plug. Sponsored. I don't think so.
My parents just saw the movie on Friday. They didn't get a chance. They live in upstate New York now, so the closest big city to them is Albany, and Albany didn't get the theater. Albany didn't get the movie until like this weekend. So I saw it a couple weekends ago because it opened here in Philly at like our art house theaters. And it was like funny because like I watched the movie. I'm like, oh my, like it's so weird seeing, because my brother's been in other movies, but he's just had like bit roles, nothing like the bank teller kind of guy. Right. And then, I saw that and he's like in the movie, and it's like afterwards I had to tell this stranger, like, I'm like, that's my brother, because they had the big marquee, like they had the cardboard cut out, and he was like there, and I pointed, I'm like, that guy was my brother, and he was, and the guy, and it was like this British couple, this like older British couple, and they were like, oh, cheerio, like they could not have cared less. So it was a really, 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 like really entertaining. It's really entertaining, but It's
Yeah, so if you don't,
go
if
ahead,
you
ask
tell me
away.
what it's like to be connected to that world in that way is interesting. Please, if you're fine talking about it, please tell me, because that is fascinating.
I am like, if I wasn't related to my brother, I would still be like a huge fan, because and he's he's younger than me, but he's he's why I got into it.
That's cool. Yeah.
I did some like comedy in college, but we'll use that word lightly. We'll use comedy lightly.
It's just like, college. You always do.
Just dumb, just me being an idiot. And
like,
but there's one really good story. There's one really good story about my college comedy career. So I'll tell you that in a second. But what happened is, I ended up after college, like I ended up working for newspapers. And I wasn't planning on being a journalist. Like I didn't major in college or anything, but I fell into it, and I was on the high school newspaper, and like I was just like, oh man, like I should have been doing this in college, but you work so many nights, like I worked for like Springfield Shopper type newspapers, and I had to go to all these like I said before, like town council meetings and school board meetings, and you just like you work. It's a night job essentially. You're essentially a night job, and and I was interested in doing stand up, but I have work to do. I got bills to pay, or actually no, I didn't have bills to pay. I was still living with my parents, but
nice.
and I managed my I didn't have credit card debt, so I literally had no bills to pay. But I did. I
want to be clear.
No bills to pay. But no, I was trying to get going with my professional career and my writing career. I really, really do love being a serious writer. But it takes away from kind of a fun hobby you can do like that, or another passion. So
you don't have nights. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I moved, I ended up back in Philly, and settled down here, and I was in grad school. So when I was it was again my master's degree in Central and Eastern European Studies, very practical degree program.
I was going to say, you're just crushing it in the money department.
Just crushing it. And I had I worked on campus at the time. I had this really I worked for the nursing school as a receptionist at the nursing school, because it paid for my tuition, and it was like super. Yeah, it was great. That's why I worked there. And it was like super easy. I had like 10 minutes worth of work to do every day. It was really boring. It was just me answering phones to nursing students kind of thing. So I started a blog, and it was just a blog of me writing down these dumb things that happened to me, collection of stories and we just kind of general things you did on a computer in 2006, 2007 or whatever. And by then, my brother he picked up some traction at UCB, and he started a storytelling show there called Nights of Our Lives. And he was like, hey, I want you to do the show. He's like, yeah, I want you to do the show. And every month it was a different theme, like this night of your life. And he's like, I have a theme for you that's perfect for you to jump on, the most embarrassing night of your life.
That's a typical brother thing. Listen, I know you, and you're and embarrassing. That's you. Come on.
Yeah. So, or it's no, most humiliating, even better than embarrassing. Most humiliating night of my life.
Yeah.
So I was like, all in, perfect. That is perfect. So I went up to that theater, and I wrote this story about the most humiliating night of my life. It involves me and my in college, and an unfortunate physical reaction she had when we engaged in a certain physical act. And by that, I mean she passed gas. And I told I told a story about that, and it went over really well. It really kind of crushed it, And it was at UCB theater, and by then people were from there were known, were famous by then, And And I was just like, man, like this is like weird that I'm on this. Like I don't really, like I didn't put in any work to get on here, right? I just happened to be lucky to have a brother who did all that work for me. But he's just like, no.
And so many people just right there. That's insane. I know so many people who've just like had these clear, like they're like, I deserved it. Like no, you probably deserved it in the sense of the quality of your story, but it's so funny that you're just like, listen, I know why I'm here.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel in that scenario?
Oh, I didn't. I mean, it's just like whatever. My brother wanted me to do it. It's no different than if my brother wanted me to help him move a desk. I mean, it's a little different, but like it's a little different. Yeah. But he wanted me to do it, so I'm like, yeah, it sounds awesome.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, and it was awesome. It was such a great thing. And then I came back down here to like try and like figure out, like I came back down here wanting to do that. So that's how we kind of like how I got started and had to figure out like, all right, I got to start my own show to kind of do what I want to do kind of thing. But my brother kind of did owe me because one of his first things that like picked up being was something I did in college.
Oh yeah.
So when I worked at one of my jobs in college and when I was an undergrad, I worked at the library and I used to have to put books back on the shelves. And I usually did this intoxicated. And so I
I could be being belligerent towards the reference cards.
I was more stoned. I was more high doing this.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, I probably did it drunk a few times too. But I was like putting these books back, and on this, I put them back on the shelf, and it was Daryl, The Life and Times of Daryl Strawberry.
Okay.
It's Daryl Strawberry's autobiography. And like I'm a huge sports guy.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I was just like, and I'm like, I have to read this. So I sat down, and when I should have been doing work, I'm like reading this thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like reading this book. And like when I got done with it, my first response was, I'm going to do a one-man show about this book. So,
and you followed through.
Yeah, I did. I wrote this like ridiculous like one-man show. I never acted before. I never took like I had a screenwriting class and it was terrible at it. And I wrote a one-man play as Daryl Strawberry, and I performed it at this coffee shop in Philadelphia. That they used to have like an open mic poetry night. This coffee shop. And
a tight hour on Daryl Strawberry at this open mic.
Literally, that's what I did. It was like I imagine like no one. I just knew about this thing. I think one of my friend worked at this place, and he told me about like, oh yeah, Wednesday night they have like an open mic. It's just like one guy does poetry. So I showed up at this thing with like 30 of my friends. Like all my friends came, and they had signed up for poetry, and it was just like the guy who hosted its name and my name, but my name was Daryl Strawberry. So this guy started reading some poems, and my friends were like belligerent. Like my friends were like just like jerks, like hilarious jerks,
just heckling him.
Yeah, and then it was like when Daryl Strawberry was in his prime for the Mets, everyone used to chant like Daryl. This guy is like reading his like free verse, his like his iambic pentameter or whatever, and my friends are just like
rhyme. It doesn't rhyme, motherfucker.
But then they're just like over this guy's poem. They're like Daryl for like 3 minutes, and I'm just standing there like by the croissants. Like wearing like a baseball uniform.
That's where you'd be standing.
Yeah, I'm wearing this like get up. So then I finally I just like strutted onto like they're like where the mic was and and there was no stage or anything. I just there was just like a mic and I just strutted up and I was like, And I'm just like, enough with the poems. Darryl Strawberry wants to talk, and the people want to hear Darryl Strawberry. So this guy was like,
the crowd goes nuts.
Like, yeah, this guy was like so confused as to what was going on, and I did my one-man show, like unannounced one-man show at a poetry reading at a coffee shop in the Manayunk neighborhood of Philadelphia, and I did it. And it was fun, and my brother like loved it. Right. He thought it was like the funniest thing he heard, that like I did this ridiculous dumb thing in front of like the most ridiculous setting imaginable. So he, in New York, when he rewrote it and made it like actually funny and like very well produced, very well made show. And he took like, he just like, is there anything you want with the show? And I was like, I just have one joke. Like, I just have one joke I want you to keep. And he's like, what's that joke? And my joke was like, Darryl Strawberry says, he's like, well, you know what? A lot of people have some presumptions about Darryl Strawberry, but here's the main thing you got to know. My great, 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 oh so motherfucking great grandfather, well, he invented the strawberry. So every time you eat a strawberry, I get royalties. So my brother he kept that joke in. So I think because of that, it's like he's like, gonna owe my brother because I got some like I did a whole like a show that was, you know, so he got me up from there and everything. But then what happened is a couple months after that show happened, my brother did like he had some administrative work he was doing for Upright Citizens Brigade, and he found an auction where if you won the auction, it was through Major League Baseball's website. Darryl Strawberry himself would come to your school to talk to you about the dangers of just dude. So
the dangers of strawberry allergy.
The dangers of drugs and alcohol, but not strawberry allergies, not like gluten allergies. So my brother like got some money together and got like won this auction. So Darryl Strawberry went to like the UCB administrative offices. And talked to like improv performers about like drugs and alcohol and like the '86 Mets. And I was there for it. It was insane. It was awesome. And then I went back and I had my aforementioned blog I did. Yeah. And I wrote like a whole thing about what happened, and it ended up on Deadspin. Like I don't know how Deadspin found out about it. And then, I was like, yo, I told my brother, like, yo, Chris, like, I wrote this blog about it, and I wrote on Deadspin, and he started getting, like, really, really mad. Like, he's like, man, like, because people at the theater were getting mad at him about that for whatever reason. So I was like, oh, man. And then, if you remember, since you're in Maryland, you might remember Darryl Strawberry's kid played for University of Maryland basketball team.
I was not
you're not
that
Terps
particular
fan.
year focused.
You're not a Terps fan. You're more like a Loyola Greyhounds fan. Towson Tigers.
Sir, I've been watching football for about 5 years.
Okay.
And that's the extent of my sports knowledge.
Okay. You're not into low-level college basketball.
I just showed up to this game, man. You got to give me a little bit. But yeah, so what happened with the straw?
So a writer from the Washington Post had read the Deadspin article, and he was covering Maryland. He's covering Maryland Terrapins basketball, and who was at the game watching his son play, but Darryl Strawberry was watching Darryl Jr. play. So this reporter cornered Darryl Strawberry and was like, "Did you say these things at Upright Citizens Brigade Theater?" and like all this stuff. So my brother was like super, super mad at me, like really, really, like really mad at me because like, I don't know, like he didn't get into like what, like, I don't even, it was like 10, it was like 10 years ago at this point.
10 years
like,
ago. It's done.
Like 9 or 10 years ago. So it's done now. But yeah, that's kind of like how it kind of came to fruition. I wrote this insane one-man show about Darryl Strawberry. Crazy. And my brother took it, and then to kind of reward me, he put me on a show at UCB Theater. But then I invariably almost sabotaged my brother's career in the process.
That is fascinating, though. That's crazy. Like, and by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if this was like everyone in show business has a story like this.
No, nobody in showbiz has a story. This is only the ninth weirdest thing to happen to me in my comedy career.
I mean, well, that actually kind of goes. I don't mean like this, because this is the weirdest escalation of events. Because just to backtrack, like, oh yeah, and then I saw this book, and I was like, oh yeah, you read that book? And you're like, yeah, I read the book. I was like, oh no, I was gonna make a one-man show, and then I like made fun of you, like, oh yeah, because you never actually do it. And you're like, then I made a one-man show. The escalation story is insane. I just mean like the whole like back and forth of show business, where you were like, and then I thought it was all gonna collapse, and then nothing.
Yeah. But it's just
crazy.
Like, yeah, that's kind of a weird origin tale, you know, and it's like, but yeah, it just kind of like, I mean, it just kind of goes to show you like. Even like the dumbest, like, I don't know, but it just kind of, it's just like my kind of whole life philosophy with a lot of things has just been like, don't say no to anything, you know? Like if someone tells you, you know, like sometimes I have said no to things. Like for instance.
Well, you're not a lunatic. Like Jesus Christ.
No, sometimes I have. So one thing, here's an example of something I said no to, and then an example of something I said yes to. Something I said no to. Do
you want the eggs? No. You want the toast? Yes. It was a great day. No. Great breakfast.
So, a few years ago, I had a job interview, and I had to go and I was at the big train station in Philly, and I had like an hour to kill for the train, and the only remotely edible thing to eat at the train station was Salad Works, and. So I'm like in my suit, and I were like, yeah, I'll have like a chicken Caesar salad. And the guy from behind the Carrot Salad Works is like this Indian guy or Pakistani guy, like someone from there. And he's like asking me, he's like, oh, why are you dressed up? So I'm like, oh, I had a job interview. He's like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a writer, and it's for a writing job at Drexel University. He's like, and so he like puts his hands on my hand and goes like, I believe fate has brought you to my Salad Works.
If it were any other business, it would not be as funny. But God damn it, you said
Salad Works. So I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, come on. So he is just like, he was like saying, he's like, are you familiar with the book The Kite Runner? And I'm like, yeah. I'm familiar with the book, the best-selling book, and the movie. Like, I want someone to write my own. I have my own stories just like The Kite Runner, and I want someone to tell it.
I have stories. It's just like other stories.
Yeah. And then he was like, I was held hostage on a plane for a week. And he's like going into some stuff. And I'm like, wow, that does sound awesome and incredible. But I don't know if I want to be the ghostwriter of the new Kite Runner. So I said no to that. That was something I declined to do. Then here's something I said yes to is a few years ago, I commuted from work from Philadelphia to New York for like, and it's like an insane, horrible commute.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I did for 3 years. And then, so I grew up outside of New York. So for half the week, a couple days a week, I would stay at my parents' house in North Jersey. And I was supposed to take in the bus to work, like the commuter bus. So one day I'm at the bus stop. I'm on some like state highway in North Jersey, and this white van pulls up, like a stranger danger van pulls up.
Yeah.
And the window rolls down, and there's like the guy leans out of shotgun, and like in the window, it's like this older guy's shotgun. He's like, "Hey, you want to ride?" And I'm like, "No, I'm good. I don't get into vans." He's like, "Were you going to New York?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to New York." He's like, "Well, that's where we're going. Hop on in." So I'm just like looking back and forth. It's like my second day at this job. Yeah. And then the panel door slides open. Like it slides open and there's all these people in this van. They're like, come on into this van. Get in the van. It's cool in the van. Get in the van. It's totally cool. So I'm just like.
But I bet you didn't think that training in elementary school about stranger danger you wouldn't have to use it until then.
Yeah, I'm in my mid-30s. So, but you know what, like, that door opened and I'm just like, you know what? Like, who cares? I'm getting in that van.
Halfway through this story, I realize, oh, this is the thing he says yes to. Yeah. Okay.
So I got in the van. And that's how I got to work like every day for 3 years. like almost every day. This van pool, and I started a blog. It's sadly I forget the address of the blog, but it was this guy, like his name's Charlie.
Repressedmemories.blogspot. Like, what the fuck?
I know. So it's this guy. It was this guy Charlie who everyone had a different story as to why Charlie did this. But he's like a guy in his 70s.
He's the Mad Max of commuting. What the fuck? He's just a folk hero.
Exactly. And he would pick up like commuters on like the highway and drop you off in Midtown Manhattan, like wherever you want to go in Midtown. So, and like I became like weird friends with these people along the time, and they didn't know I kept a blog about this thing. Because like I was just like writing things on Facebook. I was just like writing on Facebook. Oh, this happened to me on the van today. And it would just be like it was just like the strangest things always happen on this thing. There was like this one woman who was like, if it was a sitcom, and this thing needs to be a sitcom, but if it was a sitcom,
it'd be the easiest thing to produce just in a fucking van.
Oh, I know. But she would be like the zany neighbor. She was like this she was like every Jewish aunt I knew growing up in North, like very tabby and gaudy and over the top. I married into the tribe, so I feel like I'm comfortable saying that.
Hey, me too. But we still have to whisper it.
We have to whisper what our Jewish family members are like.
Did that too.
So like one time, like we were stuck in traffic, and she's just like, Charlie, I have to go to the bathroom now. I have to go to the bathroom. So she just would not shut up, and she made Charlie get like off the highway, and he stopped at like a Sheraton Inn. Like he stopped at like a hotel, and she ran into the hotel, and I swear to God, came right out of the revolving door and back into the van. And she's like, okay, and everyone's like looking at her like, what happened? She's like, oh, I'm okay. I'm good. Like, did you just like go hotel? And like no one said anything the whole rest of the time. Like no one said anything. And then and it was just like really weird. And then like, I'm still friends with one guy from the van. There's a guy who rode Shotgun.
Van. You didn't even know each other's names, you just knew what seats you had. I knew many men back then. There was Shotgun. There was bitch. There was.
Yeah, but you'll appreciate this. This is a callback and a half coming up right now. So the guy at the front of the van who wrote Shotgun, his name's Leon, and he's like in his 60s, and he's like a very stately guy. He's a lawyer. He's a great guy, just very, very stately, kingly manner about him. And he's always like imparting this weird advice to me. Like he kind of took me under his wing. And he's like always saying things like, Gregg, sometimes it's easier to be my age than your age. Think about it. Just like all these like parables. He would talk to me in parables. And he was like talking to me. And then one day he was like going through the newspaper, and he's like saying to Charlie, he's like, yeah, Charlie, I don't think my nephew's going to get the role in the movie. He just thinks he's typecast as like a nice guy. And then I was just like, and he's like, oh, that's a shame. He would have been great at that. He would have been such a big star. He's like, yeah, but that's just his line of work. So I'm like, Leon, and do you mind me asking you about who's your nephew? And he's like, oh, my nephew's an actor, and he was actually up for the role in Captain America, but he didn't get the part. And I'm like, is your nephew anyone I've heard of? And he's like, yeah, John Krasinski. And I'm
Get the fuck out of here. You know what? So, guess who works with John Krasinski's brother? My wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have a weird Krasinski family. Wait, Leon? Tell him Leon said hi.
Tell him Uncle Leon.
That's crazy.
Ask him if he knows Uncle Leon.
Yeah, I'll have her contact him. I don't know if they ever talk, but she sees him a lot. I'll see what's up. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah. So I still go to basketball games with Leon. He's like a huge Fordham. He played basketball for Fordham University, and my alma mater LaSalle plays Fordham every year. So we have a standing rivalry. So I go up to Fordham basketball games with this guy, retired lawyer, a retired lawyer. I go to the Bronx.
This is it. All right.
I know from
I really have you tell me these insane stories all day, and I will if you'll come back on the podcast. But if you mind, can I ask you about the stuff you're doing now?
Oh yeah, sure. Why not?
Well, let me do a little hard times talk with you, and then anything else you want to talk about, I'm good for. I want to look one thing up real quick.
You mean the one thing I wrote for the hard times? The one article?
Well, okay, that is true. Actually, I talk to you because I laugh at your pitches a lot. Like that's.
I hope like if Matt or Bill or anyone hears this, I hope they don't get mad.
They will. By the way, they will.
I'm sure they will.
Actually, you know what? I shouldn't get too cocky. They could just be like, "Fuck that guy." No, but they.
No, I don't think they will. I don't think they will. They're awesome guys. I've talked with them. I could not be like about hard times, right? So I found out about hard times because I saw a bunch of the articles like got sent away, and I'm like, what is this? Like, I can't remember. I can't remember the first ones I read, but I'm like, this is like so funny.
Something else. It's something on another level. It reminded me of when I first saw look at this fucking hipster.com, and that's not wasn't nearly as elaborate as this, but I remember watching it and going, it's not just a funny concept. Whoever's behind this, extremely special. And of course, that website it turned out it was Joe Mandy. It's like, okay, somebody special.
Joe Mandy
is I got with this.
Yeah, that is Joe Mandy, who's a very, very good friend of my brother's.
Oh, really? Yeah, I went to great lengths to figure out who the fuck he was, and then I read his I think it was Stereo Gum, if I'm not mistaken. But he had a whole blog series on there, and I was like, goddamn genius. And I'm so happy that he's actually been getting great success. Anyway, that's how I felt about hard times
too. He's an awesome guy. So, anyways, so I just was just like, what the hell is this? So I had achieved some punk comedy cred earlier that year for my hit Tumblr.
How is that possible? Yeah, tell me about it.
My hit Tumblr, ska or improv.
That's so funny.
So I was just like, and like, since I'm a journalist too, and I love The Onion, and I'm just like, so I'm like, all right, this is like all my worlds in one. I gotta just like, so I sent an email to them. It turned out it was Matt, and I'm just like, yo, like I love this stuff. Let me send in some articles. Like I'm a comedian. I wrote ska or improv. If you ever saw that, so I sent.
Real quick, tell people the premise of ska or improv, because God damn it, I just clicked on it. This is insane.
You have to. It's a photo blog, and you have to guess if it's a picture of a ska band or an improv troupe.
It's. This is unbelievable. This is so funny.
Yeah, they actually played it on at midnight with Chris Hardwick. Chris Hardwick at midnight played it.
He's another guy I'm glad to root for. To have a great career. I'm glad he's blown up. That guy deserves it.
We'll agree to disagree.
No. Sorry.
Yeah,
I liked him. Well, he did a music. What is it? He did a rock opera with Brendan Small, who's one of my like comedy heroes. So anyone, that's what they were doing after post MTV for Chris Hardwick. Post Home Movies, my favorite cartoon of all time, but pre-Metalocalypse, Brendan Small, that's it. The two of them were doing music. And when I heard that, I was like, well, Brendan, he's my guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
It was awesome to see it played on that show. It was awesome to play on the show. He's not my cup of tea. Chris Hardwick's just not my cup of tea, but I very much so that kind of picked up some steam. So I wrote to them, and they're like, send us some pitches and we'll put you in the group. And I forget, like, my favorite pitch I came up with was leather jacket feels alone now that owner has office job. So it was going to be
I like that.
But like none of the pitches got picked up. Here's the group.
No, that's dude. My first time I pitched these things, and Matt responded back under the pseudonym Hard Tim, which I thought was which is the name of the boot. I thought, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the boot has a different name. Either way, I thought it was funny as shit. But and then he said, he was like, oh, that's funny. and then that was it. And maybe I should have reached out. I just didn't know. I didn't want to like overstep any bounds.
Yeah.
I also didn't know who Matt was. All I knew I was discussing this with a hard Tim, and then all of a sudden some guy named Matt emails me. So then 10 new ones, and he responds, "Why don't you just write that first one I liked?" Son of a bitch. And then he let me in the group, and this is something about like the pitches that it took me a while to get this.
Because you're the student.
I was so, huh?
You're the student.
Yeah. But it's like so what ended up happening was like bitch for like 5 months. Every once in a while something would gain traction in the group but would never get picked up. And it wasn't until I started reading interviews and listening to a couple podcasts that the guys from the Hard Times did when they started explaining their process. I even had them on my podcast at one time or another. And just hearing them explain the process and going like, oh yeah, it's not just about, oh, this is a funny joke. Eggs in a lot of different ways that people don't consider when they're pitching, which is why plenty of shit that's pitched is funny. In fact, I'm guilty of this too. I over-like in the pitch group. For those, is essentially a way of voting on the pitches. That's kind of what we're talking about. We're like, oh, the pitch is funny. People like it, but it doesn't get on. That's because it's not enough to just be funny. And sometimes the funniest one-liners don't make it because that's not how this works. It's such a multi-layered, multi-step game that a lot of people don't recognize.
So with those dudes, like I seriously could not be, because they're all so much. I'm 38, right? And those dudes, like how old am I? Like 24, something like that. 25.
25, I think. I don't know. He needs a Wikipedia page. I feel like he's earned. I feel like those guys have enough fucking like views that they deserve a Wikipedia page or 3 for real.
I don't think they can wrap. Like I don't think they have the age and wisdom enough to wrap their brains around how awesome they are at this. Like,
good, no, dude. Actually, no. I feel like because they came through punk, they understood that it's like, oh yeah, it happened for you. And don't take for granted the shit that you have. I think that's a good punk thing that those guys have in spades. Sorry, I'll shut up. You keep talking.
Oh no. But they really what their ability to come up with something that hits like this, like says things to the degree it does about like our niche world that we're in, and have it be universal. It's like I don't think that they like. It's so crazy to me. It's so crazy to me that
there's going to be a time.
Amazing.
Yeah. There's going to be a time where people get into punk through the hard times. Do you understand how insane that is?
Yeah.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
If it has not already happened with like the Tony Hawk article or one of the celebrity articles. Like that's a thing that's going to happen.
It's kind of like one of those things like, like I don't listen to like a lot of new music anymore or anything like that, but one of the quote unquote new bands that like I really love a lot is the Menzingers. If you know them.
Oh yeah, Menzingers. Oh, absolutely. I played a pop punk, so I know every one of those newer punk and pop punk groups.
Yeah. So it's like I love I love Beachline, but they've been around. Like those like the dude from Beachlang's been like he was in my favorite pop punk band when I was in high school. So like those dudes like they're new but around. But Menzingers, I'm like, y'all are a bunch of like 22-year-olds from Scranton.
How the fuck are you doing this? They're from Scranton.
They're from Scranton. And then they moved down here. Then they moved to Philly. But yeah, they're from down here, and it's like, or another band.
Philly's all punk scene has been amazing these past 10 years or even 5 years.
Oh, it's so great. Or Modern Baseball is another band.
I knew you were going to say Modern Baseball is my favorite band to come out in the last probably 10 years.
They're so good. They're so
good. Like, so good. I listen to those first 2 records especially, and I just think, I'm like, watching their documentary things, the same thing of, like, my thought was, how you guys suck. How are you so good? How do you write these songs? The same thing that was said was the singer of the Wonder Years, like Dan Campbell. That's what he told them. He's like, these are your first songs? Fuck you. Go, you are assholes.
What are you doing? Yeah, like so it's I wish I was 20. I wish I was like 19 or 20 in Philly right now because I don't have time or energy to go
My
to
dad
basement
almost
shows
relocated to Philly a couple years ago because we're like, well, this is where you need to be. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it's like
Yeah.
like I have like it's like I would go to basement shows, but like staying hydrated is a big thing to me now.
Yes.
Like I don't want to be in like a basement and like like I don't want to be in a hot basement after 9 p.m. Like I can't like like I gotta go to
your own
bed.
fan shows at this point.
Yeah, it's like
an outlet.
Yo, if you don't have central air, I don't want to be there, man. Like kind of thing. So, but there's so many awesome bands, and it's like and it's like crazy because like one of like my favorite band from like back then, like when I was like 19 or 20, like one of my favorite bands is Jawbreaker.
Oh yeah, fucking Jawbreaker. Yeah.
Right. So and it's like, and it's like, man, like I have like all these bands that are like the new Jawbreaker. They're like right here in my backyard, So
that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like I don't know. It's like so I could not like be more of like a thing with like times like y'all like it's just like the same thing. Like it's like, all right, how did Blake Schwarzenbach, whatever the frig his name is, when he's like 20, write these timeless lyrics like when Spin the Bottle and like Boxcar, Chesterfield Kings. Like, how are you guys capturing like the comedy of this entire community at that age? Like,
it doesn't. Yeah. Well, that's what it confused me until I really started talking to them. Got it. After like specifically Matt and Ed's understanding of how Matt's journalism background, and a lot of like Ed's editorial stuff, and then not only watching Bill's stand up, but talking to Bill and hearing him just just in conversation how his thought process goes, and you're like, it's not just the perfect idea mixed with the perfect strategy. It's also the perfect three people to be doing it.
It's
like nuts. You're right. It's almost unfathomable, but I still get it. I don't get how, but I get it. I'm trying to figure that shit out. And I get
it's
why.
Like one of those things where like, it's just like one of those things where it's like, all right, all right, yeah, Mac and Laura met and formed Merge Records, or
shit like that has to just happen. It's
just a magical thing.
Conway responds to Matt Sankham's random Facebook post about it differently or not at all.
Yeah,
exactly. Or the way it did happen, or like to this extent, like it's just a really perfect storm. Well, let me ask you about you specifically. So you have. Oh, sorry. If you want to get something else out, I didn't.
Oh no. I would think I think I would have the my headlines I pitched have the worst ratio of most likes to articles selected.
Dude, there are a lot of people who feel that way, and it's like it's one of those things where like you can get the feeling of the room, but we have to like remember as pitchers that our room consists of people pitching comedy. And the room that it needs to hit on 125 plus thousand Facebook fans, and so it's like it gets to that point where it's like and I'm doing this now with stand-up, only been in it for 6 months, but like I'm at that point where I go, okay, I've got a decent amount of minutes of stuff that like is funny to me, but there are still crowds I go up in front of and I go, why isn't this stuff working all of a sudden? And sometimes it's like, oh, I have a couple of bits that I get so much like praise for afterwards, crowd, and they're the bits I hate to do because I'm like, I don't think this is that funny. It's not, but because it's like it has to resonate before being funny. Resonating and then also funny. Well, let me ask you. This one resonated and was funny. Your headline. No one of any gender identity wants to use venue bathroom. Can you take me through the process of pitching that? Because that is the perfect storm between very funny, very relatable. You don't usually get all three of those. And you're, just so you know, other than with the exception of one of my headlines, and only because one of my headlines was repeated once, like they reposted it, than any of mine. So you fucking hit it right. You hit a home run on your first like article up there. So tell me, like, what was the process going through when you made that?
Hold on 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be off soon. My process is
women,
I don't
right?
really.
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't really have one. It's like I'll just come up with a headline idea, and then I'll just throw it up there, which is why none of them get picked up. And I don't care. Like, I'm not bitter. Like, I don't want to make it seem like you should pick up. I just love reading them. Like, I just love reading them. And I have friends who, like, my friend Mike, who's like one of my closest friends, is not into punk at all. Right. Like, he's like he likes like dressy Bessie and kind of twee girl kind of music. Yeah. But he could not be a bigger fan of the Hard Times. And I'm just like thrilled. Like, I get to tell him, like, you know, like I was like, oh, you got it. This one, I don't know if they're going to run this one, but this one is great. Like,
you know, like, yeah. Oh my God. I remember when that Tony Hawk one got pitched, even before it got, like, I didn't say the actual headline to anyone, obviously, but it was like, I remember like thinking, I was like, actually, this happens all the time. I think, like, I cannot wait for this to come out on the site, even if I have nothing to do with it. I know, like, I'll be like, my old college buddy Brad is gonna fucking flip when he sees this shit, and it's just cool to like be in that. Like, that's what I always focus. I pitched for 5 or 6 months without getting a goddamn thing on. Fucking, it was rough, but I just like getting better, trying to get better and better. As I could tell myself, but dude, it was like even just being in there. It felt like there's something really cool happening here. Well, with this particular one, this was just like one of your ones where you knew the topic. I imagine you're like, you saw that in the news, or you knew that was going on, and that was just the first thing that popped in your head when it came up to that.
Well, yeah, and then it's just also, I think it's like a universal truth that if you've ever gone to a show, like, you don't want to have to dump in the bathroom.
That's why I said it's a perfect storm of relatable, topical, and funny.
Yeah.
That's the aim. And there's a lot of times where, like, I'll go, or even I might even hesitate. I might go, well, I know this is funny, but like, that's it. It's like a candy bar. Like, you can't just be, it has to be a meal with all that shit. But this is a meal and a half. That's why I think it, like, right out of the park, just looking at that, the social media interaction, like, that's insane.
I had two good ones that I really liked, that, like, I'm just like, that I thought were going to get picked up. And that there were one I put up yesterday. I really liked a lot. Maybe someone had a similar
say
idea.
It just in case. Don't say it just in case.
I'll say it. I don't. They're not. No one even liked it.
Oh, well, okay. Well, if it's a bomb to that, just to be on the safe side. Damn it.
I'm saying it. I promise the audience. I promise your listeners. It's straight edge jockey rides high horse to Kentucky Derby victory.
Oh, that's funny.
was one I liked. What was the other one I liked? And then revolutionary. What the frick's that name of that band that Tool from Rage Against the Machine's in now?
I don't know, dude. Wait, which Tool?
Tom Morello's.
Oh, band. I don't know. Chuck D. It's Public Enemy. He just took over Public Enemy because they went and took over Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah. No, but yeah, no, that one I like. I just, like, you never know, right? You never know what pitch is gonna, like, get a lot of likes or not, and that's the fun part about it.
Like, I've had ones that were like, no, sorry, go on. I'll tell you in a minute.
Oh no, because all right, so, and it's like funny because it's really similar just to doing stand-up, because I started doing a new bit lately. Financial guru Gregg Gethard is my new persona, and I'm like a financial advisor who goes to comedy open mic nights, and I came up with
I like the character angle that you go for. That's actually really funny. I wish there were more. I like straight stand-up plenty, but I almost, in my scene, just for my own entertainment, I wish there were more character guys like you. So yeah, tell me about the character.
I wish there were. I don't want there to be any other character guys, because that means I have less of a market. Everyone else sees great comedy. Great comedy characters. No, but I came up with this joke that was because, and it's because I want to help you get out of the improv class and into the middle class, which I thought was like the funniest joke I had ever written in my life. I could not wait to do this, and it was met with crickets, like pure crickets.
But what is it like to bomb doing characters? What is that like? Because see, as a straight stand-up, you can just I guess you can in character like. Yeah, what do you do when you bomb in character?
It's the same as just bombing in general. There's a little bit of a deflection. It's a little. I have this built-in deflection since I do kind of more per character. It's a little bit more of a concept right behind what I do. So I always have this built-in excuse when something I do bombs that, oh, it's just above the audience's head. It's like my built-in excuse. And I mean, and in all honesty, like I'm doing, if I'm doing, like, in all honesty, if I'm doing like kind of like something that's a little bit of a high concept at a Philly open mic night on like a Tuesday night, chances are it might be a little of the audience's head. Like it's not an inaccurate statement with that, but it's bombing as a character. Like you do have a deflection because you can say like, oh, it's not me, but it is you. And I wrote everything, I perform everything. But in all honesty, like I love bombing. I really, really love bombing because like that's where you learn. You don't learn from you don't learn from doing well. You learn from learning how to do well. And you don't learn how to do well until you bomb. And then one of the things I used to do a lot, and I should do it again, I always tell like young comics, like people just starting out to do this all the time, is right. Everyone has their notebooks, right? And everyone writes down their jokes. But what no one does, there's a couple things no one does that I think every young comic should do. Write down after your set, review your set. Just review your set. And because
I record every single one and listen back. It hurts so bad, but you just fucking do it because you hear so much stuff on the recording that you don't hear on the stage, and it's shocking how different perception can be from the recording.
I've never re-listened to what I've done or rewatched anything until like a year later, but I used to jot down notes as to how I felt and how you feel about things and what you remember. Because that you've talked a lot about writing from the stage, like in other interviews I've heard.
Yeah, that's the only way I can do it. I can't if I write it down. I sound like a bad teleprompt reader on stage. Exactly. If I write anything down.
But when you get off the stage, if you write down how you felt on the stage, because a lot of times, like every single time you perform, you definitely have a different. Like you can't. It's not a cookie cutter here. We're not a factory. Every time you perform, there's a different thing you've done that you didn't do before, and sometimes something will click. Sometimes something won't click, or sometimes the way I said that is really interesting, and I'm gonna maybe it didn't work, but I liked how it felt. And you move on from and you work from that.
That's interesting.
And like that's how like I used to develop like a lot of my sets and things like that is that way. Then another thing that a lot of young comics don't realize, right, is being stand-up. It's theater. We're putting on a theatrical act, and everyone's so like you always hear about like the words of comics, right? No one remembers it's a visual thing too.
Yeah.
And vision, you do like brain science stuff, right? Like for your work is that what
brain science, neuropsychology, yes. But brain science, because when you said that, I actually thought it was higher. I was like, what's brain science?
Yeah. But neuropsychology, right? But the most immediate, I don't think I'm wrong if I were to say the most immediate sense is sight, right? Like sight is how we
interpret the first thing we interpret. Yeah. That's what we rely on. That has nothing to do with my background, but yes, I think as a regular human being, you are correct.
Right. So I think the best book about comedy ever written about how to make comedy is Born Standing Up by Steve Martin.
I read a chapter of that, and then I put it away somewhere because I am a loser. I need to. So does he talk a lot about the physicality?
Yeah, I think he is the GOAT. He's the best. He's the Beatles of comedy. He was artistically the best and the first one to sell out
Sorry, you said
arenas.
he's the Beach Boys of comedy? You meant he's the Beach Boys of comedy.
Or the Beach Boys of comedy. Or the Beach Boys of comedy. Depending, I mean, I like Pet Sounds more than any other. I like Pet Sounds more than any other Beatles album, but Sgt. Pepper crushed Brian Wilson.
Oh, we'll argue later. Well, if he's the GOAT, then he's on Pet Sounds. What's the thing I was going to try to slip in there?
I will gladly cede to that. I will gladly cede to that as being someone who has seen Brian Wilson do Pet Sounds live. I will gladly say that, right? But he, and also my favorite punk band ever might be the Queers, who just essentially cover Beach Boy songs.
Yeah.
So
yeah, pretty much. By the way, that's a project I've had in the works for many years. It's all penned out. I just haven't activated it. Is a punk rock version of Pet Sounds.
Oh,
that's all. I've got it all, a 3-piece, all written out. Not the drums. Fuck that. So I guess I just have 2 pieces. But it's all ready to go once I actually get off my ass and do it. I was busy with other things like trying to make a career in music and then comedy. But
yeah.
And having a baby. Yeah. Things get in the way.
Having a life. Yeah.
Could you tell me?
Yeah.
Because I gotta go, and because I got another guest, I wanted to keep you as long as I can. I could talk to you for fucking hours, dude. Tell me any other projects you're working on now and then plug whatever you want before you go.
Well, my main thing right now is just get this financial guru thing hammered down, right? Because it's fun, and I've only done one actual show as a character. I did a show in Brooklyn with it, which was great, and I got another show coming up in Queens in a few weeks. I've mostly been doing open mics with it so far, so nothing but I really love this character a lot. This character's got so much good feedback from people. Everyone I tell this idea to, everyone's like, yeah, that's perfect for you. That's your idea. That's something I love doing so far, and really generating a lot. It's all parts of my life I like in one thing. Yeah. And because I'm getting my MBA in finance.
Yeah, I was gonna say your MBA. I imagine that plays a lot into it. Yeah.
So it's so there's a huge part of that that I love taking. And then one thing I always love plugging is that one of my biggest claims to fame is called the Carl G. Yelp novel. And
okay.
I wrote a quote unquote novel via Yelp reviews under the name Carl G. And what it is, it's it's a tale of a divorced actuary who moved into the Manayunk neighborhood, Philadelphia, and goes on a path of self-discovery, one restaurant review at a time. So and
it progresses with the review.
So he started. The first review is went to the Ugly Moose, and me and Cynthia signed the divorce papers. 14 years of marriage, coming to an end. I would recommend the Ugly Moose. They have great hamburgers. It's a great atmosphere to finalize the end of your marriage without the pressure of the lawyers. And then along the way,
literally a guy's life story, and those are where the scenes take place. This is insane.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Sorry, keep telling me. Burn as much of it as you want.
And then each one kind of progresses. And then along the way, I introduce new characters into his life, him and Cynthia's twin sons, Bradley and Brian, aka B&B. And then Carl meets meets a woman, Tanya M, who she's starting over because she was in jail for committing voter fraud. And,
that's fun. And this is and I imagine his reviews. Well, I'm sure you play with the juxtaposition versus the sameness of he has a great time at the place with the person he meets, or the life discovery he has, so he loves the food, or he's just fucking miserable and then still gives the food 5 stars.
Well, I make sure all the reviews have 5 stars. I had written some Yelp reviews before that weren't that, and I got banned from doing it. My profile at the time. Oh, they're all real places that I go to.
Real. Oh, so it's basically not not to compare it to something else, but I'm comparing it in a good way. It's like a Ken M, but you crafted it into a real story, if you know what Ken M is.
Is he that dude who he wrote? Who I don't know who Ken is.
He just wrote like Yahoo Answers. He wrote like, I'm assuming, I think that's the right initial. He wrote a bunch of Yahoo Answers, but like they were really funny. He's just a character he made that were like 1 or 2 lines at a time. It'd be like, great concept, but it's like you're doing that, but on an emotional level instead of just making it like a character who's supposed to be dumb, and you're tying it in full story arc. That's fucking great. Like that's so really amazing.
The first one, and it progresses all the way to the end, and that's like maybe my favorite thing I've ever done, because I was like really I've actually met a bunch of the business owners I've reviewed as Carl G along the way. Like
as the character?
Oh, no.
Oh no, I was gonna say.
Well, one woman who
like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. His review is valid.
Well, I did a show as the character at the bookstore in my neighborhood, and I read a bunch of new reviews as the character because I reviewed her store as a character, and like that's how I met her. And she's like a friend, a good friend of me and my wife's now. Yeah. But like like a couple of years ago, we were out for or last year we were out for our anniversary dinner. We went to the Mexican place in our neighborhood, and like the manager and the hostess were looking at us like really weird, and we were like, "What is going on?" And like they were being super, like they were like, "Oh, your table's just gonna be a few minutes. Just sit tight, okay?" And we're like, "Yeah, all right, no problem, no problem." Like, and they kept on checking at us and looking at us. It was so weird, everything. And finally, the manager like walked over to me. He's like, "I have a weird question for you. Are you Carl G?" And I was just like, "What?"
You got recognized.
How did? Because I had been interviewed about it by ABC News interviewed me for it, and one of the people, and so I had reviewed that place as Carl G, and he read the initial review and was like, "What the fuck is this?" And he showed it to the staff, and then they figured out like it was a joke. They figured out what was going on. They read the other reviews. So when I got like a bunch of publicity for it, one of the waitresses there like read the interview and saw my name, and she like Facebook stalked me, and her cousin's like my best friend. So she like, "Oh, actually, like I remember him now." So when I went into the restaurant, she like saw me and like called me out. And like told the manager, like, "That's Carl G, that's Carl G." So he gave me, my wife, a complimentary dessert for it. Great guy, great restaurant, Taqueria Feliz.
Is that 5 stars. Is that you're going to work that into the show? Free dessert. It was great. It was very cordial. Recognized.
Very cordial. But yeah, that's my favorite thing I've done. That really like meant like kind of more to me than anything. Because like, the weirdness of me.
Yeah. You get to actually just put it all up there. All right, sweet. Well, where can we find you? Any plug stuff? And tell me that, and then I'm going to gush to you for a second about how fun this has been, and then I got to go and put somebody else on. But yeah, tell me, any plugs, anywhere we can find you online? I
mean, you can just find me on Twitter at holdingcourtpod.com, or not .com if it's on Twitter, duh. But it's at holdingcourtpod. This is the name of my old NBA podcast. They never changed.
That's a good title for an NBA podcast.
Then I also recommend to everyone watch my brother's show when it's on.
Oh, you're frozen a little bit. Yeah. What's the show called? You're frozen a little bit. I've never had somebody freeze during the plugs. This is really weird.
I'm back. Are you?
Okay, good. Yeah, what's your brother's show called?
The Chris
Gethard movie, show. Did you mean?
Oh yeah, he's in a movie. Yeah, the Chris Gethard show. Check that out.
Yeah.
And also the other thing I like to plug is The Best Show, which is a podcast radio show. Thebestshow.net. That's the best thing in comedy for the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Going. Could not recommend that enough to the Hard Times listeners. So yeah, that's kind of it. I have nothing to do with The Best Show other than calling in occasionally.
You just want people to listen to it.
Just want people to listen to it. I'm a huge fan.
All right, sweet. Well, I gotta say thank you so much for coming on. But also, there are moments in this podcast I have not laughed that hard on a podcast in quite some time. Like legitimately, you have a very interesting like history and you're involved in a lot of really cool projects. I do group casts, and I'd love to have you back on anytime. Like I could have talked to you for another hour. And by the way, that's how I feel about most of my Hard Times guests, where it's like we leave, and I instantly like message, and I'm just like, I wanted to talk about so much more stuff. Like this is so awesome. I don't know why I'm thumb typing like this. Anyway, my point is, thank you so much for coming on. It was a lot of fun. I look forward to talking to you later and seeing you in pitch groups.
I look forward to it, Eric. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been so much fun.
All right, cool. I will catch you later, man. See ya.
See you, dude.